Do you remember those Thursday nights of the 1980s? The time when the whole family gathered around the bulky television set, eagerly waiting for that familiar jazz bass to play? The Huxtable family entered our living rooms not just as on-screen entertainment, but they truly felt like close neighbors. The colorful sweaters of Cliff, the sharp composure of Claire, and the teenage troubles of the kids, all of it brought us a strangely warm and safe feeling. But what we saw through the small screen back then was really just the tip of the iceberg. Behind the image of a perfect family and the hearty laughs on the sofa were behind-the-scenes stories that were rarely mentioned. You will be surprised to know that those unexpected incidents and impromptu moments of forgetting lines were the secret spice that turned the Cosby Show into an American television cultural icon. Today, let us pour a cup of coffee, turn back time, and step behind the camera. We will uncover 15 hidden secrets and the most wonderful accidents that made the name of this show. I promise that you will have to look back at the footage of your youth with completely different eyes. One, the savior who pulled NBC from the dead. Sometimes, just one television show is enough to change the destiny of an entire empire. That is exactly what happened with The Cosby Show. In the early 1980s, NBC was going through a very difficult period. Viewership was constantly falling, many shows did not meet expectations, and very few people believed that a show revolving around an African-American family could be the push this network needed. But the reality played out in a way no one expected. Right after airing, The Cosby Show quickly became a national phenomenon. Millions of families turned on their TVs every week, making the show one of the most watched programs in America. That success not only brought huge advertising revenue to NBC, but also opened up a renaissance for the entire television network. What impresses me most is the lesson behind this story. Ideas that were once doubted are sometimes the ideas with the power to change an entire industry. When a story is told with sincerity and touches the emotions of the audience, it can do more than anyone ever dared to expect. That is the special legacy that The Cosby Show left behind. 2. The tragedy of the child stars who made others rich. This is perhaps one of the hidden corners that makes many lovers of The Cosby Show uneasy. The show became a television phenomenon and continued to bring in huge revenue over many years thanks to syndication deals across America and many other countries. However, the financial story of some of the child actors was not as beautiful as we imagined. At that time, many actors were too young to understand all the terms in the contracts they signed through agents or family members. According to some cast members, not everyone benefited from the long-term success of the show, especially the revenue from reruns. This sparked many debates about the rights of child actors in the entertainment industry. Looking from today, this is not just the story of The Cosby Show, but also a reminder of the less discussed side of Hollywood. Behind the laughter and the stage lights are children who spent their entire childhood creating memories for millions of viewers. A show's success can be measured by revenue, but the value of those childhood years is not easily exchanged for money. 3. The lie of the century about the Brooklyn house. If you ever thought you knew the Huxtable family home, then this fact might make you smile. Throughout 8 seasons, The Cosby Show was always mentioned as the story of a family living in the heart of Brooklyn. That is the image deeply ingrained in the memory of millions of viewers. Therefore, many people, when visiting New York, have looked for Brooklyn with the hope of standing in front of that familiar house as a way to return to their own youth. But here is the interesting thing. The facade of the house that appeared in the opening credits and exterior scenes was actually located in the Greenwich Village area of Manhattan, not Brooklyn at all. Television created such a perfect illusion that almost no one questioned it for many years. And perhaps that is also the special power of classic shows. An address might not be correct on a map, but the feeling of a home is extremely real. For many viewers, the Huxtable family home was never just a filming set. It was a place that held evening gatherings, warm laughter, and an entire beautiful era of American television that many people still remember. 4. We almost had a Whitney Huxtable. Close your eyes and imagine. The year 1984. You turn on the TV, but instead of Lisa Bonet's familiar bohemian style, the person walking down the Huxtable stairs is Whitney Houston. Crazy, right? Yes, before becoming a global icon, young Whitney was the #1 choice for the role of Denise. The director was completely conquered. But just before signing the lucrative contract that anyone would crave, Whitney bravely refused. She knew her true dream lay in music. Just think, at the age of 20, refusing the golden ticket of national television required immense, ironclad faith. I wonder, would we have heard her sing in the middle of the Huxtable living room if she had agreed that day? Regardless, Whitney's courage to walk her own path will forever be a beautiful chapter. 5. The living room that was more expensive than a real house. Remember the living room filled with warm light, where we spent so many Thursday nights gathered with the Huxtable family? You once wished to have such a comfortable sofa corner in your own home, right? But what would happen if I told you that the rustic space on TV was more expensive than a real house in real life? In 1984, NBC executives that year almost fainted when they saw the bill reach over $200,000. Instead of using cheap props like contemporary sitcoms, the script required filling the room with original African artwork and custom-made furniture. That was not at all wasteful showing off. It was a proud declaration of the class of a black family. Which little corner of the Huxtable house were you most mesmerized by? 6. The teenage boy crushed by pressure. We all love the radiant smile of Theo Huxtable, right? He was like a sun right in our own living room. But behind the innocence that millions of Americans enjoyed every Thursday night, 14-year-old Malcolm Jamal Warner was falling apart. At the age of 14, we usually just worry about homework. But Malcolm was hunted relentlessly by paparazzi, had no normal friends, and was completely exhausted by the limelight. By season 2, the immense pressure broke him. The boy hid in his trailer, sobbed, and begged to quit the role. At that dark moment, the director had to step back so a real father could step in. The filming schedule was immediately cut to the maximum in an effort to protect him and return a piece of his precious childhood. 7. The script shredded in the night. Imagine you are a top Hollywood screenwriter in the 1980s. You have just finished the script for the hottest TV show in America, eagerly waiting to hit the set. But boom. The next morning, all your hard work is already in the trash. That was truly a familiar nightmare behind the scenes of the Huxtable home. Every night, the script was brought back, crossed out, and rewritten entirely. For one reason, it was not authentic enough. Polished lines were replaced by the everyday language of a black family. In the morning, the cast stood confused, holding brand new pages. Many talented writers angrily resigned. But perhaps it was that refusal to accept phoniness that created the magic that we still eagerly follow. Perfection sometimes demands a very high price, right? 8. Bill Cosby had to fight to not make a show about poverty. This is perhaps one of the most important decisions that shaped The Cosby Show from the very beginning. According to many stories about the development of the show, Bill Cosby did not agree with the idea of building an African-American family according to the poor stereotype that television often exploited at that time. He wanted the audience to see a doctor, a lawyer, and children growing up in a family full of love, success, and education. That was not a fairy tale, but a reality that also exists in American society. That choice was once doubted, but time has proven its power. The image of Clair Huxtable, a mother who was both intelligent, capable, and full of love, became an inspiration for many young women, especially African American women. Many people later shared that it was that character who helped them believe they could also pursue law, medicine, or professions that were rarely seen on television before. What I remember forever is the power of representation. Sometimes, just seeing a positive image on screen is enough for a child to believe that their future can be much more open than the prejudices that society once imposed. 9. American audiences turned their backs when the show talked about racism. For most of its broadcast, The Cosby Show was loved for bringing an image of a successful, happy, and laughter-filled family. But then there was an episode that made that atmosphere slump. The story was about Theo's girlfriend being suspected of shoplifting by security just because she was a black woman. It was a very normal situation in the lives of many Americans at that time, but it was not easy when it appeared on entertainment television. According to many later analyses, the episode did not receive as strong a response as previous ones. However, it would be simplifying the issue to conclude that the audience only turned away because of the topic of racism. Television tastes are always influenced by many factors, from content and airtime to the competition of other programs. What makes me think is that the show accepted sacrificing viewer comfort to tell a meaningful story. Sometimes, television does not just exist to help us laugh. It can also be a mirror reflecting things that society does not want to face. And perhaps it is those moments that made The Cosby Show more memorable in the history of American television. 10. The disastrous sweaters that became legendary. Do you remember the feeling on Thursday nights? The whole family gathered around the square television waiting for Dr. Cliff Huxtable. How can one forget those colorful sweaters with quirky patterns? The truth is, Bill Cosby initially hated them. He wanted elegant suits, not a sweater that looked like a failed abstract painting. But the costume designer begged him to try it once. How did the American audience react? They went absolutely crazy. Instead of a distant doctor, they saw a sloppy, relatable father who was always ready to hug the kids after a tiring day of work. It was that imperfection that turned a fashion disaster into an eternal piece of pop culture in the 1980s. Did any of you ever wish to receive a Huxtable-style sweater on Christmas morning? Be brave enough to admit it in the comments section. 11. The magic trick called hiding the baby bump. If you watched television in the 1980s, you probably would never have noticed this. While The Cosby Show was filming its third season, actress Phylicia Rashad was pregnant in real life. However, the show's script had no plans to add a baby to the Huxtable family. Instead of rewriting the story, the crew chose a solution that required incredible creativity and patience. From large handbags, kitchen counters, sofas, to carefully calculated camera angles, every detail was arranged to cleverly hide the actress's baby bump. There were scenes that even required adjusting props or her lying position to keep the frame natural. The audience at that time almost did not notice at all. That is a type of special effect very different from today when digital technology was not yet popular. Everything was created by human ingenuity. And perhaps it was those silent efforts that contributed to keeping the world of the Huxtable family complete, so that the audience only focused on the story and never thought about what was happening behind the camera. 12. The billion-dollar background actor squad. Have you ever rewatched an old movie and suddenly exclaimed, "Wait, is that?" The Cosby Show is exactly such a time capsule. Before Hollywood rolled out the red carpet, the Huxtable set was a stopover for billion-dollar superstars. Do you remember the clumsy Smitty from Season 4? That was a 20-year-old Adam Sandler, long before he made America laugh. If you have a keen eye, you will see the 4-year-old girl playing with Rudy, that is Alicia Keys, before she won a dozen Grammys. But what I admire most? Mr. Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, spent 3 full years just being a stand-in for Bill Cosby. His job was to stand silently for the crew to adjust the lighting. Just imagine his patience and love for the craft at that time. Did any of us recognize them from the first broadcasts on television? Please share your memories below. 13. The 4-year-old girl who forced the writers to rewrite the script. Sometimes, a successful movie is not because everything is perfectly planned, but because someone unexpectedly appeared and changed everything. That is the story of little Keshia Knight Pulliam. Initially, the producers envisioned Rudy as an 8-year-old girl, old enough to participate in family dialogues. However, when 4-year-old Kesha walked into the audition room, all initial plans were almost immediately set aside. It was not because she acted too sophisticatedly. On the contrary, it was her natural, clever, and truly innocent nature that conquered the whole room. Kesha did not try to be a star. She was simply herself, and that created a special attraction that no one could script in advance. The result was that the writing team decided to adjust the character Rudy to fit Kesha instead of finding an actor to fit the old script. It was a bold decision, but completely worth it. Just a few years later, she became one of the most beloved faces of the show and went down in history when receiving an Emmy nomination at the age of 6. That is a reminder that sometimes the greatest things start from an unexpected opportunity. 14. The legendary theme song written in one night. There are melodies that just need to play the first few notes, and an entire sky of memories immediately rushes back. For many American viewers, the opening music of The Cosby Show is one of those melodies. What is surprising is that such a familiar piece of music was born in a very urgent situation. When the first air date was fast approaching, the crew still did not have an official theme song. Instead of choosing an existing piece of music, composer Stu Gardner decided to compose it from scratch himself. He entered the studio in the evening with only a piano and the pressure to create something truly special. By the time the sky began to brighten, after nearly a whole night of continuous work, that energetic melody was finally completed. What I like most is not that it became a famous song, but the story behind it. Sometimes, the longest-lasting works are created in the most pressured moments. More than 40 years have passed, but just by hearing the first few notes, many people still have the feeling of returning to their family living room on a peaceful evening in front of the familiar television. 15. Two opposing acting styles clashing fiercely. The interesting thing about excellent acting duos is that they do not necessarily have to be the same in real life. In fact, sometimes it is the differences that create magic. With The Cosby Show, Phylicia Rashad and Bill Cosby are a typical example. On screen, Cliff and Clair Huxtable always brought the feeling of a couple in sync down to every look and smile. But behind the camera, their approach to the role was completely opposite. Phylicia came from theater, where every line and every beat of emotion was prepared very carefully. Meanwhile, Bill Cosby was accustomed to the style of a comedian, frequently adding improvised lines or reactions right when the camera was running. That sometimes caused both to have to debate to find common ground. But looking back, perhaps it was that difference that created the very real vitality of the Huxtable family. The dialogue between Cliff and Clair always felt natural, like two people who had lived together for many years, not like they were reading lines. It is proof that in art, harmony does not always come from being the same. Sometimes it is created from respecting each other's differences. Looking back at these 15 stories, we finally understand why the Huxtable family left such a deep mark in the minds of so many people. It was those random incidents, those moments straying from the script, that breathed a rare authenticity into the show, making them not just actors, but truly a part of our living rooms. Even though television today has changed so much, the warmth and laughter from The Cosby Show always carry a distinct charm that cannot be replaced. I wonder which secret surprised you the most. Or perhaps you are still forever impressed by a certain sweater of Cliff. Please share your memories with me down in the comments section. Do not forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can continue our journey of revisiting other wonderful memories. Thank you for watching.